I think PCA has demonstrated that it's never been shy of innovation. In the early 2000s, when people were talking about trying to find a new concept, a new, more exciting version of cricket, PCA created Zone 6 City Cricket.
We wanted to be, again, at the forefront of perhaps some change in English cricket. And we spent many hours as a body. We created a working group which included myself, Richard Bevan, Steve Marsh, Gladstone Small, Jason Ratcliffe, just to see if we could come up with something that just, moved cricket forward a little bit.
We put the first one on at Bristol, and we had 6 cities, and then we put the second year on at Hove. And apart from the weather, it was a great success. Probably was the platform for 2020 cricket and potentially franchise cricket.
It was only one day a year, so we weren't actually selling a franchise, but we sold sponsorship for each county, and we had a one day live on Sky where it was a little, it was groundbreaking. It was, like I said, perhaps the start of considering franchise cricket and a much shorter version of the game.
If the PCA had been further developed to that stage and we had resources, I think we might well have launched it to a much greater extent. It was televised, it did have new ideas. We had RefLink, which we pinched from the rugby idea with Peter Willey was the umpire at Bristol. It was a great event. The players were very innovative. I think 2020 cricket was just beginning to evolve, and we subsequently had a meeting at Edgbaston with Matthew Fleming chairing the meeting. Quite a significant turnout of players, well in excess of 150. And at that meeting, 2020 cricket was discussed at length.
Sort of late 2002, the ECB, I think it was a guy called Stuart Robertson, came to us and said that what we were doing, they needed to sort of embrace the move forward into a shorter version of the game. They could see the commercial, upsides of what we were doing, and they, along with the negotiations of getting a bigger grant from the ECB to fund our various educational programs and benevolent issues. It was sort of one of those moments where if we decided to take a back seat at that point and not press forward, with our revolutionary game, that they wanted to start a series of 2020 games the following season, but we had to agree to stop, the Zone 6, embrace their competition, and that would go in line with some of the funding requests we were making at the time. And I think the rest is history, because that year we played 2020. There was a lot of players that thought, it was a bit gimmicky, but we all know where it's gone from there. It goes forgotten a little bit that at that time, the PCA, 2 years before the ECB had held any competition with a shortened version of the game, we had invented and held a short version of the game.
The MVP concept was created in the early 2000s and really conceived on the basis that people thought that averages weren't the best way of judging performance. A small cricket committee was put together, and it delved into key criteria in the match. What were match-winning criteria, whether you were a batsman or a bowler? And from there, the MVP was created. Since 2006, the MVP's gained real credibility, not just from a sponsorship point of view, but from a player point of view. To win the MVP, the overall MVP at the end of a long, hard domestic season involving 3 competitions, is a highly coveted award. The MVP gained further credibility in 2016 when the ECB decided to select players for its North-South concept, which was a forerunner for selection for the 2019 World Cup.
The PCA's role in the creation of FICA was fundamental. The idea and the concept was developed by Richard Bevan. He created that, came up with it, invented it. And that was very, very important because it gave the PCA more of an international voice. It also said to other players from around the world, you can develop and benefit from the experience of Australia and England, and we can have shared experiences with that. But don't forget that many of the players who were overseas players were coming in and playing in county cricket, and they were all PCA members. So it was very useful to be able to say to them, there's an international dimension to this as well, and we can help you with negotiating with your governing body. For example, that happened with the West Indies players, and certainly happened with the Australian players. And I think that was quite far-sighted of Richard, because at that stage we didn't do things in a big way like the drug testing programs and things like that, whereas now people do get tested in competition, out of competition. They'll get tested when they go back to their home body, they'll get tested here, and it has to be some sort of uniformity of treatment and the way that people are dealt with. So in terms of FICA's role, it's not a big voice in terms of fundraising and that sort of stuff, but it's very important in terms of collective unity and, if you like, championing the cause of the players internationally.
The PCA in my time, to begin with, was regarded as an organisation that was aggressive and was a union and was just about wage demands. But very quickly, over a 2-3 year period, the stakeholders, and particularly the ECB and then the ICC with FICA, then realised that actually they were the best allies commercially as well as on the pitch. And I think that's one of the most important developments. And looking at the PCA today, magnificent.